Well, let's step into the traveling now, right? I like to think magic is a willingness to cooperate with everything. So I've just come from the Pioneers Conference where I've presented for 23 years. I do the astrological, mythological, political, with music, call in what's needed. So astrology really is the original language of participatory interrelatedness. And so each planet really represents a living quality of intelligence that resides within us and connects us to the world. So even right now, as I speak the planets, I will translate them. But so I'm on a tour, which I call the Majnun Endogenous Indigenuity Tour. Majnun means crazy for the divine. And I learned that when I was in Syria with wonderful friend Deborah Felmuth, and we stopped outside the Baghdad Cafe in the middle of the desert and outside Palmyra, and there was this fabulous Bedouin, and he had fossils and altars and magic things everywhere, and he was so playful. And my friend Deborah said, "How did this happen?" He goes, "Majnun, crazy for the divine." And indigenous and endogenous indigenuity. Endogenous means, we have receptors for like DMT and cannabis. We have receptors for mythology. We have receptors for wisdom, and again, whatever we speak to, we're calling it forth. So language crafting is part of it. We say one definition of maturity is to have access to all of our resources, all of our skills. So this beautiful language, we'll just do a little bit now of what I'll be doing actually at Open Secret on Thursday at 6, and then a longer language crafting, magic participating event with at the new Living Expo. That's Saturday 2 to 4. But yes, what fun, what a great time to gather. So in all languages, the word vessel means container and boat, in all languages. It's just wonderful. So we are here now, even in this little microdose way. This is our vessel, our cauldron of cooking things. And the word craft means power from dedication. And it also means boat. So our craft, our dedication to our craft, even right now, this moment, makes our boat sturdy in the wild seas. So off we go. Just a little bit of the astrological part. So each planet represents, our inner democracy. Saturn is the part of us that defines things, dedicates, takes vows. And so it is the part of us that we most tend to outsource its authority, outsource to sociopathic dingbats who are the lowest devolutionary nadir of our rogue species, as evidenced all around us. Danny knows well, we all know well. And, Thursday, the Tennessee Senate booting out, two Black representatives who were standing with the youth, and the youth were chanting, ban books, ban drag, kids are still in body bags, right? And the two Black representatives who stood with them were kicked out. Biden, Harris are like, this is outrageous democracy. So many ways to participate. And one is, so we want to insource our own authority to, just now, from where we've scattered it out there, and this is a daily practice, because whenever we get panicked or frightened, we've outsourced our authority, and it's like, pull it back in. All of these practices. And to insource our authority is to suck the chi out of external authoritarianism. It's the inner and outer kind of dynamic. So part of the dance of now, and again, I'll speak the astrology, and you can, if you know it, that's great. And if you don't, just let it kind of wash over you for what's useful. So, right, we're in the, as Danny mentioned, we time this way holy week by, Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. So here we are. So the full moon just a couple of days ago, it pulls everything up. Ooh. And now we're in the crypt. Now we're Crypt Saturday. Tomorrow's resurrection, right? See, we work with everything. So the sun is in Aries right now, right next to little planetoid Chiron. So mentor. A lot of astrologers insist on calling Chiron the wounded healer, but Chiron's bored with that because it's true he could heal where he'd been wounded, but he never complained and he never talked about it, and it's not his chief feature. And it's a kind of modern covering up of the most important part. 2,500 years ago, Chiron was the first mentor. He's a centaur. He's a centaur mentor, as Steve Behrman says, going to take a centaur mentor journey. So he lives in a cave because he's half horse, but he is the most knowledgeable, kindest, and cultured of all beings. So he really represents the right relationship of wild nature, thin membrane, human culture. So he's reporting in for duty in a sense. And he starts a school for future cultural heroes like ourselves, right? To dedicate, to get them ready for their contribution to culture. Their tasks are impossible, as are ours, right? And they always succeed after they study with Chiron. So in Chiron's mythology, to be underestimated is considered a positive strategic advantage, because if you're going to do something impossible, might as well make it a surprise. And I like that when people go, oh, whaley, those people don't respect me, or they won't let me in the academic, whatever the thing is. And it's like, that's excellent. You get into Chiron school. How fortunate. And it's part of our, our undulation, We know that in the world, the egregious imbalance we're imposing on all of our kin, the sky rivers are losing their capacity to undulate. The gigantic 5,000-mile sargassum seaweed moving towards the beaches of Florida and Mexico, having lost its mooring in the Sargasso Sea because, again, the currents are messed up. So just even on another level, just even now, undulating is good. And then when we move it into language craft, there's a pandemic, increase of the use of the word impact, right? Impact everything. And it's like, really, you want a short, violent encounter, do you? Just as opposed to a long, curvy influence. And Trickster says, we don't really care what you humans do. We care the manner in which you do it, that it comes from freedom and choice. To expand our repertoire of responses is to ally with nature's evolutionary genius. And so we go, all right, so there's that dynamic. So Chiron then goes on a journey throughout antiquity, and he founds these cultural centers that really existed, called Asclepions. And these were cultural centers. I've been to the ruins of one, where people went at a time of like, whoa, no certainty, of dedication. We're going to come back to power of dedication, especially now. They would dedicate to having a healing dream for themselves and their community. They get chanted down into the dream incubation chamber. They'd have a powerful dream. We have records. And then they knew, because it was common sense at the time, that they would only have the power of their dream, the power of their inner insight, once they'd given outward creative expression to this inner experience. So they would write a poem or participate in the play or plant a tree with intent, with dedication. And having done that, they'd go back to their communities as seed Renaissance people. That all really happened. And just to, all the stories are welcome. So my friend Deborah Falmouth, who lives in Syria and Vermont, right? So she said, in the West, we think of the future in front of us. In the past, who cares? She goes, in the Middle East, it's the reverse. We're gazing at the past in front of us. It's fun to try that. Future, invisible. And we're crafting the future by gazing at the caravan of our past mentors, not just humans, right? And so I also want to bring into play this realm of participatory animism. We have endogenous receptors to that. And I like to say animism, it's not a belief, it's just good manners. So I lived with an actual coyote for 19 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, and 2 days. It was a worthy experiment, evolutionary assistance to both of us. Coyotes, we've taught dogs shame. Coyotes, no shame. It's wheel and deal. How about this? How about that? And when I first began living with Stella Coyote, I had a Lakota elder on the radio show that I do that Danny's been on many times, the Visionary Activist Show. It's Critique and Solution for 26 years on KPFA, holy moly, right? So I had the Lakota elder on and he goes, coyotes, nothing smarter. And then he said, you know, we Lakota did not hunt alone. Those gifted, and I want us all to feel the possible resonance of traditional memory. He said those gifted could go into a trance and negotiate a working alliance across species borders. And we would all hunt together with the wolves and coyotes for a season. And if you want to destroy the earth and destroy our culture, have people forget that or mock it. So now is the time to remember all of our skills. Again, maturity, to have access to all of our skills that we want to play with. So one of the things that I like and that I'll be kind of encouraging us to start and continue these practices as an experiment, you know, is to kind of feel that, you know, we might have been one of those people who goes backstage, a sacred place, excuse me, you know, and emerges and goes, it took a while. It was like buying a carpet in the Middle East, you know, but we got a deal. The coyotes want the front left leg of every other deer. The wolves are cool with that. We're cool with that. And the deer are cool with it back on stage. You know, when we reference the invisible and the work, you know, done, and we are decolonizing our minds in so many ways. But we go, I always keep a reference to New York Times Science article that said scientists discover that beneath and around every river is an invisible river, teeming with microorganisms, but invisible. And then it said scientists have further discovered that the health of the visible river depends on the health of the invisible river. And we go, well, this is, you know, metaphysics 101 and science as well. We're at this time where science is proving folklore on so many levels, including entheogens and things that we'll cover all over the place. But so, yeah, and so that idea of saying we as a species, as a rogue species, have unleashed so much cataclysmic suffering rolling at all of our kin. And so in the spirit of Coyote, to experiment with going, oh, fire, we have been most rude. Is there some way we might negotiate to make some of what's coming at us metaphoric rather than literal? And what I'm thinking of, you know, Edgar Cayce was a real psychic, Pisces, Kentucky. And he predicted in the 1940s that in 1970, the East Coast would be deluged by a great tidal wave. And what we got was Watergate. Right? So it's like, can we move it into the metaphoric realm? Metaphors are the incarnational garb whereby power enters the world, the idea of, you know, powerful metaphors. And so that idea of saying, you know, oh, water, we have treated you with tremendous disrespect. You know, is there some way we can negotiate? So, you know, to hold sacred. And in the spirit of Coyote Trickster, you know, the rest of our beings say, well, what are you humans putting on the table? What's your vow? And right now, the planetary movements, we have Saturn, you know, are insourcing our authority in Pisces, the whole realm of water and dream time, you know, and it says there's nothing more important right now than for each of us to wonder, what is our primary dedication? And I'll say that and translate it, Saturn has a beautiful quintile, a 72-degree angle to Uranus, nature's evolutionary trickster genius. And it says our dedication is our freedom. You know, and again, these two parts of us, you know, Saturn is a part of us that is excellent at defining things and taking vows, but it's terrible at, well, how are we going to do this impossible thing? And we go, Saturn's job in all of us is what? Uranus and Jupiter say cooperators are standing by. Will do how? Do common sense things, you know, in myriad ways that we're all going to cover, you know, but not to let the compelling illusion of realism be an imaginative impediment, because trickster synchronicity, so as to entertain possibilities that we're all moving into a field Everything's trying to help out the dunderheaded humans. We're moving into a field of expanded serendipitous synchronicity according to our dedication. So if we entertain that possibility, then what's the quality of what we all want to connect with? I had the good fortune to interview Janine Benyus, founder of biomimicry and green chemistry, and it's the sine qua non of life on this planet that humans humbly cooperate with nature's guiding design genius. TED Talks, million things to check out. But I asked Janine, I said, what is this biological term, vertical integrated hierarchy? And she said, oh, it's this beautiful thing in nature. It means everything in nature contains the plan of the larger thing it's a part of. And this is what makes for nature's ingenuity, resilience, and self-assembling. And she said, a tendon in our arm is made of twisted bundled sticks, and each one is twisted bundled sticks, and each one is, micro, 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 fractal, fractal, fractal. So she was happy for me to take scientific fact and turn it into our guiding strategy metaphor. As we dedicate inwardly, we strengthen our outward signal. So we're more likely to be danced into place with our allies, our accomplices, and that's why it is great to gather now. And in the chart of now, and I'll be showing these on our Saturday, but we have 2 fire planets, 3 earth planets, 4 water planets, 1 air planet. The 1 air planet is Pluto. It's death and intensity and mission that lightens our heart. So Pluto has just moved into Aquarius, dipped its little toe there. It's been in Capricorn for the last 9 years, stressing all of the systems that are not dedicated to community well-being. Condos built on sand, healthcare systems insufficient. And then it moves into Aquarius, and what, Danny and so many are dedicated to, so that community, but community defined as everything, all the beings, cooperating with everything. It's as though, backstage, all the creatures on the planet are going, what are we going to do about the humans? We got to either kill them or heal them. Let's do both. We know as a scientific fact, the virologists just say it as fact, and we know it in our hearts, that disruption of the ecosystem unleashes viral storms. When will the pandemic end? When humans quit despoiling the earth. That's just a fact, right? So, it's sort of time to be grown up. But Pluto and Aquarius says, well, we do want, in an age of ingenuity and, free energy discoveries, we don't want Elon Musk to own free energy, right? We want the community, mutual aid, reciprocity. Symbiotic mutualism is a great phrase of what nature does, this incredible generosity and reciprocal support. And then just, I don't want to go on too long because we've got lots of things. You can cut me off, Scott, at any point, but just a little smidge too. Saturn in Pisces trines Mars in Cancer. Mars is our woofiness, it's our yang, and it's in Cancer, and we want to decolonize all languages. In astrology, the grumpy, colonized part would say Mars in Cancer is in its fall. We go, because yangness in Cancer, protecting life, is weak. No, we're changing that. So my buddy Robert Bly years ago said, the loneliest person in the world is the man after industrialism, where he's got to leave the babies and the land and separate that land, and go to like an office or a factory. We're revisiting some of these forks in the road. And a wonderful friend, Sean Patrick O'Donoghue, said, at that same time where we're losing contact with the land, Western humans have caffeine, tobacco, what the other thing, and clocks, right? We didn't use clocks before, it's caffeine, chocolate, sugar, right, and clocks coming in, going, whoa. So now we have productivity time, and just a little bit, Mars is also kind of testosterone, and Sean Patrick O'Donoghue says many natural places for testosterone. Pine bark. He said, pine bark, if you're going to the gym and you want to build muscle mass, no matter what gender you are, pine bark tea, really effective. And he says, testosterone is not necessarily aggressive. It woofs whatever social game we're engaged in. If we're engaged in a social game that rewards aggression, it's like, whoa. He says, but if you give testosterone to, wrathful dakinis or Tibetan Buddhists, they're more energized in peace and goodness, right? So it's like it's a neutral, interesting thing. And so to us, then it says, oh, well, then what we got to do is change the game. James Cars has a brilliant book called Finite and Infinite Games. Finite game about winning, infinite game about keeping everything in play. And so to encourage, the positive yang in everyone, to be tending and caring and many other fun things that we'll play with. Just the last little bit, I love Terry Pratchett's novel, I Shall Wear Midnight. I use it as a political guide during the last election where much good magic has been afoot. And in it, the cunning man has come to town and created mob mind, which is the rough music that draws on the worst of humans to pick up the stick, to do the mean thing, to be possessed in a way. And the young girl witch must dissolve the power of the cunning man. This idea of collective mind, that pressure comes down and it erupts through the most thin membranes, and that there is no private crime. It's all belongs to the collective. I have a great client who's a forensic psychiatrist, and her job is to maintain kinship with the perpetrator. That's a whole other thing we'll be going into too, but saying it's all speaking to us, So I realized, in that book, it talks about the cunning man finds a foothold in those whose hearts are full of grievance and resentment and revenge. And that can be all of us, at any point we go, I was saying, I don't have grievance. And it's like, oh yeah, little harboring things as well as the large things, and I've been crafting this material for a while, and I go, right, the fate of the world requires humans dissolving grievance out of their hearts. Right. It's an impediment, which is not the same as grief. Grief is love. Grievance is hatred, right? And so to dissolve that and to ladle out, my friend Pat, with whom we do a lot of political magic, run many campaigns and stuff. And she said, what is the antonym of grievance? And it's like, oh, good question. Because the authoritarian world feeds on grievance. It's like, oh, gratitude. Gratitude is the antidote, and so to ladle out, gratitude. So there are many ways that we will.
Let's stick with that as our closing thought.
That's good. Thank you.
I'm a big believer in gratitude. People are just lighting up the chat box with how much they love you, appreciate. Definitely make sure you read that. And you can get a lot more from Carolyn Casey through her Coyote Network News. I'm a big fan of coyotes, to be honest, as long as he doesn't eat my dog.
You can make a deal.
I will do that. CoyoteNetworkNews.com, and she's got astrological readings and trickster training and radio show archives, and all things Caroline Casey can be found at CoyoteNetworkNews.com.
And radio shows for free.
And those amazing radio shows we've all been listening to for a very long time.